Aloha. Okay. Here I am. Here all of you are. And we are pretty much ready to go. I have been waiting to do this topic for a while. Many of you that follow my work, that have been to my lectures or seen some of my YouTube channels, or some of you who are actually enrolled in my Holistic Health Mastery Nutrition Certification course, know how much of a focus I put on the hormone subject. This is a subject that needs to actually be put more and more into the airwaves, and not just to be put into the airwaves as, you know, oh, we need to balance our hormones. You know, that's very generalized, and I find with a lot of the information on the internet, it can become very convoluted. It can be very diluted, and people are running around trying to figure out how to dial in their hormones, how to increase their progesterone, how to lower their DHT, their dihydrotestosterone, to whatever the case is, you know, lower estrogen, all that. And the hormone subject is very complex. It truly is. I'm one of those people that doesn't want to overcomplicate things, but through the last few years of really putting the magnifying glass on this topic, I've been like, whoa, this is crazy how many moving parts are involved in the hormone cascade. And just to like balance our hormones, it is absolutely insane to some degree. And so the reason why I'm doing this webinar and the reason you're here is to help demystify all that information, to take all the rudimentary parts, all the advanced aspects of hormone mastery, and to distill it into a framework of practical application. What can you do right here, right now, in your own home, in your own body, to start triggering the right hormones, to start creating the right ratio of hormones that are going to help you achieve your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual goals on this earth? Because make no mistake about it, everything that you're creating in your life is correlated with your ability to produce the right hormones and how to offset, but maybe the better word is to calibrate the hormones that are starting to lead the charge, that are dominating when those hormones should not be dominating. And there's a number of factors for that. So we're going to dive full on into all those subjects, into this whole presentation. I'm super stoked. I'm super excited and happy to be able to finally lead this presentation in a webinar format that's accessible to everybody out there in the world, essentially, that's viewing this information. Every single one of you is a genius. You have the seeds of genius planted inside of you, and all you need to do is just kind of fertilize that soil in your body. We call that a microbiome, right? Your biological environment, your bacterial environment, and all the different other facets of how to nurture those seeds of genius so they start to sprout. And then one day, I promise you, if you follow out this path, you will look in the mirror and you will not be able to recognize yourself. You will look at your life. You will look at your relationships. You'll look at your vocation. You'll look at your location. You'll look at all the things in your life and you will realize one day that they are completely unrecognizable to the person that you used to be. It's so unrecognizable, in fact, that it's a joke. You know, that's my experience over the last, almost decade of being into the nutrition field and really getting on to living foods, living plant-based foods specifically. That is the thing that transformed my life, that revolutionized my life. And every single thing in my life has literally metamorphosized because I heard that message many years ago when I was at a point in my life where I was at a crossroads. I was feeling a little bit lost and I needed new direction. I needed new insight. I needed a spiritual direction. I needed something that was going to be powerful enough to start turning on the triggers within me. And that's what raw living food did for me. And that's why I'm so passionate about bringing that message out to the world more and more and more, is because that is a message that needs a voice. And I've chosen to be one of those voices for that message. And I'm so honored. I'm so grateful that that living foods message came into my life. I'm so grateful for it. I'm so honored to be able to be a communicator of that message for every single person I come in contact with. Obviously, this is not just about living foods, right? Living foods is the blueprint. It's the foundation that we start with. It's how we cleanse out all the obstructive materials, all the carcinogenic materials, all the plaque formations, the cooked, oxidized cholesterol, the rancid oils, the calcium-forming nanobacterial organisms, all the inappropriate hormones, the fake estrogens. That's how we cleanse the palate. That's how we cleanse the template. But once we do that, we're able to reset our metabolism and kind of figure out through intuitive exploration what actually works for us best, right? And that's what we're going to dive into here. So looks like we're ready to go. So without further ado, let's do it. Aloha, everyone. Welcome to this live webinar on hormone mastery. My name is Ronnie Landis, and I shared a little bit about what got me in the door of this whole world, this whole nutrition, natural nutrition, holistic health, and personal development world, this transformation world. And it was essentially the seed of an idea that I could actually change my life based on what I put into my mouth. I had never really considered that growing up. It was very mechanistic, material. I didn't really, food, okay, food's great. I need that because, glycogen in my liver, I need that to produce energy for my athletic career and to perform and all that. Okay, great. But I didn't realize that actually food affected every single aspect of my life. It affected my consciousness, and it affected the signaling of the hormones, the hormonal symphony that is playing out in my biological matrix every single day, right? Food is fuel, and food essentially is information. That's what nutrition is really about. It's not about getting stuck on one diet or dogma or that philosophical approach, and you have to straitjacket yourself to one type of eating protocol. That has nothing to do with this. That's completely made up, and it's ego-based. What nutrition really is about dialing in the tools that are going to work best for you at any given time, any given stage and phase in your unique life cycle and your unique circumstance, that's going to turn on the triggers of metabolic perfection. That's what we're talking about, how to become your most perfected, alchemized state of being. So that's a pretty cool idea for me. That's a really cool way of framing it. I like is that it's actually an alchemical process. It's not just, I eat food and then hopefully it comes out the other end, right? That's not really what it's about. It's about how can you transform your life and become a perfected representation of what the human being is capable of becoming ever more. Okay, so that's kind of a philosophical outline for you guys, and something I think is so important to just constantly drive in. We can get very materialistically focused on this subject, and we have to bring it back to spirit. We have to bring it back to the Dharma. We have to bring it back to actually what are we doing on this planet, and how can these tools help me express more of my God-given human potential? So I assume most people are in alignment with that idea. So let's jump into this. Now, there is a lot of information to go over. So my intention for this webinar is to just provide you guys unbelievable information, but I really want to encourage all of you to actually take this information and apply it to your own experience and to research it further. Because I don't have the time, nor do I have really the desire to go into every nook and cranny, every nut and bolt of this whole equation for you and to tell you what you have to do. I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to tell you what you need to do. I'm here to share with you what options are on the menu board of the universe and allow you to pick, okay, this makes sense, boom, I'm gonna take that. This right here, it makes sense, but I don't see how I can apply that to my life right now, so I'm gonna put that over here and just do this right now and see where that leads me. Okay, so jumping into this, Hormones. What are hormones? Geez, what are hormones anyways? I mean, what an interesting topic. What hormones basically are is they're the fundamental chemical messengers in our body. They signal every other metabolic function to happen. Similar, if you've been in the raw food world for a while, you've heard about the idea of enzymes, life enzymes, food enzymes, digestive enzymes, metabolic enzymes, all that stuff, right? Well, basically, you have metabolic enzymes that are donated to you at your inception in your human body when you're born, and you have a certain storage container of enzymes. And the idea is that as you go through the life cycle and the aging process, you start to deplete those enzymes over time. And then what actually ages somebody when they hit 35, 40, 45, 50 is that they have a decrease in their enzyme capacity. And those enzymes that actually fuel the metabolic process and heal scar tissue and heal catabolized tissue in the body actually are not able to do their job. And that's when we start to increase the aging cycle, right? That's kind of a similar idea, is that hormones are the fundamental fuel of the biology of our body that allow us to actually be vital, to allow us to be vibrant in the world, to have core, primordial, God-given life force to channel and to move around and to create all the things that we want to create in our life, right? That's the basic idea of what hormones actually are. Now, before we get into we dive really in depth here, I want to share something that is really near and dear to my heart. And it's really something that I'm so incredibly proud of. And thank God it's done. Thank God. I spent 2 years on this new book, The Inner Alchemy Youth Thinning Program. And that book is right here. Boom, got my name on it right there. And this is a guide to everlasting beauty, energy, and vitality. And I want to read some paragraphs out of this book, because this book is really a distillation and a categorization of the primary organisms or the primary triggers that increase the aging process in the body and in life. And there's a few paragraphs on the subject on hormones in here that I want to introduce this presentation with, because I think it's going to be much more efficient for me to do that than just to try to break it down as we go along. Because as many of you know, I can go on tangents all day long. So this is kind of for me to focus in a little bit. So I'm going to read about 2 paragraphs here and then move forward. Okay, so hormone balance. The story on hormones has proliferated over the last few decades as our environmental pollution has compounded, the main food supply has further been contaminated, and the load of stress has increased. In order to understand the storyboard we are each involuntarily role-playing, we must first understand what has happened to us as a civilization. Over the last 70 years, it has been estimated that an approximated 77,000 identifiable chemicals have been poured into our world environment. A tremendous volume of these chemicals are known as xenoestrogens, or synthetic estrogen imitators, or estrogen mimickers. Compounds such as DDT, DDE, all forms of pesticides, chemical fertilizers, and all other industrial compounds such as plastic metabolites, including BPA, PCBs, and phthalates, through what is known as the compounded effect of toxicity, our hormonal symphony has become disrupted and is playing out of tune. That's the idea, by the way, I want to really get people to understand, is that it's not so much that one hormone is out of balance or one hormone is the bad hormone. It's that the ratio of our hormones is out of synchronization. It's out of harmony. So our hormonal harmonics are playing out of tune. That right there is the fundamental overview. If you have a working understanding of hormones, start with that idea, is that the hormonal harmonics are playing out of tune. So what we want to do is we want to bring it back into harmony. We want to bring our hormones back into their appropriate ratios so everything is dialed in together. The hormones are able to signal together opposed to one hormone being over dominant and signaling off everything else. And then all the good hormones are being pushed down. Their voice is not being expressed essentially, and they're not getting they're being suppressed. They're not actually being utilized for what their healing and regenerative function is. Okay, I'm gonna go on a little bit. This has not only led to the ecological disaster we face, but is attributable to every known form of disease, including metabolic problems involving thyroid health, as the effects of Chernobyl, Russia, the nuclear disaster in 1986, and most recently Fukushima, Japan. We definitely need to understand that our thyroid is the master metabolic switch in the human body. All your metabolic functions are being dictated by the conversion of what's called T4 to T3 in your thyroid gland, and that's basically being metabolized, I guess, through what's called thyroid stimulating hormone and thyroid binding globulin. Thyroid binding globulin is a type of protein that literally acts as a cab driver or a taxi cab or maybe a Uber driver for T4 hormone to convert over into T3. And that's how we create our energetics or our metabolic energy in the body. And our thyroid, by the way, is basically an electrical reservoir of energy that houses the most electrical energy and concentrates it in that thyroid matrix. That's so important to understand, because then you start to realize, like, okay, if the thyroid is basically an electric conductor, then maybe I should start to increase my electricity in my body, my negatively charged electrical sufficiency. And one of the best ways to do that is actually to get grounded, to get barefoot on the ground, to get your hands in the soil, to jump in an ocean, to get your butt over to Hawaii or Costa Rica or to Thailand or to Bali or some area that has that natural paradisical environment where you can jump into a non-contaminated ocean and get that electrical charge. One thing I want to say about this that is a really important idea is that we are being saturated with so much EMF pollution from our Wi-Fi's, our phones, our internet, our electrical devices. And that energy doesn't just like affect us and then go away. What ends up happening is that negative energy or that positively charged electrical energy actually gets stored onto us. Our field, our electrical field in our nervous system actually gets concentrated and bound up with that positively charged energy, which causes a gravitational suppression of the human body. It causes our energy system to be disharmonic and to be flipped out of balance. So one of the really amazing practical solutions is actually just to get grounded or to jump in the ocean, because what that does is it discharges that positive charge. It basically pushes it off of you, and that negative charge affects the thyroid gland. Not to mention chlorinated water, right? You've probably all heard about iodine supplementation for increasing your metabolic function, for increasing your thyroid. Iodine, by the way, is the primary fuel source of your thyroid. I mean, whoa. Okay, this is interesting. I'm gonna go on this for just a minute before we move on, because I'm telling you, thyroid issues are running rampant, and it's pretty obvious why. If you look at Mendeleev's periodic table of the elements, which is kind of a dead, like cooked up, like mortuary version of the elements, but we'll go with it for now because it's easy to categorize it. You have something called halogens, and halogens are basically like airborne elements. They're volatilized minerals essentially that we breathe in. You obviously can get it through elemental sources like iodine supplementation, things like that. But basically, they're volatilized in the air, and we're breathing that stuff in. And our thyroid gland, or I should say our iodine receptors in our thyroid, If we don't have enough natural iodine in our diet, what ends up happening is that that receptor site is like a void. It's empty. So it needs to pull something similar to that iodine element if it doesn't have the iodine in the first place. So what it'll do is it will attract chlorine. It will attract borine, or not borine. I'm thinking of it'll come to me later. Fluorine and bromide. That's what I'm thinking of. And it'll pull that stuff into it, and it will fill that receptor site up with toxic minerals, toxic halogens, essentially, in radioactive isotopes. This whole radioactive solution, by the way, is such a huge deal that we can't see it, right? We can't see radiation. We can't see it. We can't taste it. We can't feel it. The only way you can detect it is with a Geiger counter. And so you don't know if it's on your food. You don't know if you're breathing it in. But guess what? We are. It's in our environment. So what iodine really does is that it supplies the metabolic machinery with what it needs, but it also helps to push out all those volatile, radioactively contaminated minerals. That's what radioactive contamination is basically radioactive minerals. And so that's a really easy way to understand that. So anyways, iodine helps to protect the thyroid gland and push that stuff out. Now, just going on that point real quick, this is how I want to open up this subject. Your hormone system is dictated by what's called your endocrine system, right? That's basically how your system creates a feedback loop and a transference of hormones in the body. And that starts with what's called the HPA axis. That's the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, but it's actually more accurately the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal thyroid gonadal system, or in a woman's case, the ovary system. And that's how our whole androgenic hormone system is communicating with itself, starting with the pituitary gland, which secretes human growth hormone or other hormones, and then that goes through the manufacturing of the hypothalamic system, and then that connects with the thyroid and the adrenals. So I'm feeling like this is a really important place to just stop on for a second, is that a lot of people that have thyroid issues don't realize that they have an underlying adrenal issue. Your thyroid gland and your adrenals are partnered up. They work as a feedback loop. So a lot of times people have these overt thyroid issues, which is related to what's called hypothyroidism, which is an underactive thyroid, or hyperthyroidism, which is an overactive thyroid, where people are just like, they can't put on weight. They're losing weight. They're excessively thin. They're gaunt. They're like, they don't have enough salt in their diet, perhaps, all that kind of thing. They're just like, and their energy is way too high. It's out of balance. It's like a wind dosha imbalance in the Ayurvedic system. And people think that that's just about the thyroid, and it has a large degree to do with it. But underneath that is an adrenal fatigue, an adrenal exhaustion, and the inability of the adrenals to be balanced out, the left and right adrenal pack, which is basically the battery pack of the human body. It's not able to produce enough dopamine for our neurotransmitters and for our nervous system to be in balance, as well as it's producing too much cortisol, perhaps, where we're hyper stressed out. We have too much energy, and we're not able to ground that energy into some kind of practical outlet. And a lot of people have that experience. Or in a hypothyroid situation, they're just like depleted all the time. They're tired all the time, and they don't realize that there's underlying issues having to do with why that is. So that's kind of an overview there. I don't want to focus too much attention on that. But as we're moving forward, I think there's something really powerful to share with you guys on how you can take really quick action to immediately balance out your hormone ratios without having to go to food right away. We're going to go into that. But there's 3 things that everyone needs to know and needs to start applying right away. And one of them is anabolic exercise. Anabolic exercise, not aerobic exercise necessarily, but anabolic or aerobic exercise, which is basically where you're signaling human growth hormone in your body by a specific type of exercise you're doing. What do I mean by that? I mean light to moderate weight training, lifting weights and pushing yourself to a point where you're actually at exhaustion, you're at muscular fatigue, you're not overdoing it, you're not hurting yourself, but you're challenging your muscles to go and recruit amino acids in the body to start rebuilding the catabolized tissue, the torn tissue that is happening through the breakdown of working out. And you're signaling human growth hormone as a way to rebuild your body, to start increasing bone mineral density through weighted squats, for example, that kind of thing, through sprinting. Instead of going on long runs, like long 3 or 5 mile runs, doing sprinting will actually signal that human growth hormone. And human growth hormone is basically a precursor for all our androgen hormones, for all our growth, youthening, and regenerative hormones. If you're a woman, for example, I really recommend that you get onto intermittent or short burst running, sprinting, running down the quarter of a track, for example, a racing track at some local school or something, or running down the park as fast as you can within like one quick burst, and then stopping, and then walking back, doing it again, and doing that like 4 times at your fastest pace. Because what that'll do is that'll increase muscle definition. It won't break you down and turn you into this very thin, anorexic looking figure, which we see a lot in the raw food world. People are catching on to this, so it's not as prevalent. But back in the day, I'm telling you, raw foodies did not exemplify what this lifestyle really could be. It was too like thin, gaunt, like, not looking like the peak picture of health. And that's a lot of it's because of this whole obsession around running these 5K mile races and all that kind of thing. That's very destructive for the body long term. So I recommend that. And then I also recommend getting your sleep cycles dialed in. The most important thing that we can do to recalibrate our hormone symphony is to get a good night's sleep. I mean, geez, like that's one of the most important things that you can put your magnifying glass on, is getting a good night's sleep, is dialing in your sleep cycles. Stop staying up till 11 or 10 or 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever you're doing, especially watching electrified stimuli like TV and even YouTube channels, and being on your computer and getting all that light, that LED light into your eyes, which acts as a transference through the optical nerves into your brain, into your pineal gland, which blocks off melatonin secretion. It does not allow you to go into the phases of your sleep cycle, like the REM sleep cycle or the theta sleep cycle, which is absolutely what you need to truly regenerate your body, your neurology, your nervous system, your brain tissue, efficiently. If you're not getting the proper amount of sleep for you, it's different for everyone, but for you, then no matter what you eat and no matter what you do, you're gonna have hormonal imbalances. That's just a fact of biology and physiology. So I want to encourage you guys to look deeper into that and how you can start to adjust your lifestyle behaviors to start getting much better sleep and waking up a little bit earlier so you can seize the day. You can take advantage of the day ahead, and you can do your meditation, you can plan out your day, you can have that time alone to yourself before you jump on the treadmill of your day. And then the other thing is, are you ready? Are you guys ready for this? It's salt water in the morning. This is the thing too, is that I've counseled hundreds of people over the years. I've done 200 live lectures, maybe more. And one thing that comes up more than anything else is salt and water and bringing those together. Our fluid chemistry is basically like an ocean. Our digestive system is like an ocean, salt and water basically. And that's what we need to remineralize our body, to increase our sodium, potassium pump, which opens up our detoxification pathways, to produce hydrochloric acid for proper digestion. And then also just to balance out the blood sugar imbalances that are very hormonally driven, especially with women with intense PMS issues and perimenopause, premenopause, and during and postmenopausal issues. The intensity of those issues and the hyper, like specifically, I'm thinking of overheating. When a woman is like overheating, she needs a cool down. She needs to cool out essentially the blood chemistry. And a lot of times that's because of blood sugar roller coasters. There's too much blood floating around the bloodstream. And the insulin, by the way, is a hormone. There's not enough insulin. There's insulin resistance, or in a diabetes type 1 condition, there's not enough, if any, insulin that's being produced by the pancreas. And then they're not able to transport the blood or the sugar into the receptor sites to produce immediate energy. So there's too much blood in the system, essentially. And salt helps to cool down the system. It helps to cool down that overheating. And that's why I recommend more than ever salt and water in the morning. And you basically take 1 liter of spring water, preferably, and you put in 1/4 or 1/8 teaspoon of sea salt into your water. You mix that up. You might put in like maybe a liquid B12. I've been doing that lately. It's been really, really powerful, putting liquid B12 that's combined with B9, which is folate. And doing that in the morning, or putting your lemon in your water, or putting your B vitamins in your water, all of which, by the way, are very important for the hormone cycle. So there you go. Those are 3 actionable things that are basically free that you can do right away and that are going to make a huge impact. So moving forward, what I want to do now, let's talk about androgens and estrogens. Androgens are defined as male sex hormones, and estrogens are defined as female sex hormones. Now, that's kind of the traditional colloquial terms or definitions that are used for those terms. But when I speak of androgens, I'm not just speaking of traditional male sex hormones or characteristics. I'm talking about hormones that are quite literally your youthening hormones. The hormones that allow you to be neotenized. Now, you might be wondering, whoa, what's that mean? Neoteny. The study of neoteny, to become a neotenized human being. Neoteny is basically the mammalian expression of a mammal in its youth stage, in its most youthful stage. Like, so when we're like 5 years old, right? Or 10 years old in some cases, you have your most vitality and youthful expression. Your hormones are at that perfect ratio. And then after that, they start to dip out. That's what we want to do. We want to become more neotenized. We want to become more juvenile in our physicality, meaning our juvenile hormones. That's what androgens are. They're juvenile hormones. They're youthening hormones, essentially, right? So that would basically be vitamin D, which is one of your major master hormones. That would be thyroid stimulating hormone. That would be progesterone. That would be testosterone. That would be human growth hormone. That would be DHEA. And those are the primary ones, right? And then we have our estrogens, which estrogens are not bad, but what happens is that we have so many fake estrogens that plug up into the estrogen receptor site. And what they do is they start cranking on estrogen, like at an accelerated rate, where what happens is that pushes out our youthful hormones, our juvenile hormones. It pushes them out of sequence, kind of like musical chairs, right? It pushes them out of that perfect spot that they want to be in. And then we have this overexpression of estrogen. We call that estrogen dominance. And a quick education on estrogen dominance, there's 3 primary estrogens in the human body, which is estrone, estriol, and estradiol. Now, it's just important to know what these are. If you want to go further into this subject, I really recommend that you guys pick up my book, the inner alchemy youthening system. I have an entire chapter that I literally spent probably a year on to completely categorize this whole hormone mastery subject. Everything I'm talking about and so much more is, I have to say, very beautifully and efficiently explained and expressed in this book. You can go to Amazon.com and purchase it yourself. It's the Inner Alchemy Youthening System or program. I don't even know the title of my own book. So what I want to do is I want to actually read you guys basically, where is it? There was something I had specifically in here that I wanted to communicate from the book. We can, well, here, let's do this. Okay, thank you guys for sitting tight with me here and being patient as I go through this process. This is what I want to do. If you guys can see this, this is the hormone mastery subject, and I start out with estrogen dominance. What is estrogen dominance? We've kind of touched about that, but I want to read something for you guys. Okay, the term estrogen dominance was first coined by Dr. John Lee in his book, What Your Doctor May Not Tell You About Menopause. The basic idea is that estrogen dominance is when an excessive amount of estrogen has flooded a woman's body, counterbalancing her progesterone. We now know that estrogen inflation affects all genders, races, and ages, from small children to elderly alike. The symptoms are widespread, ranging from all age-related breakdowns, mineral deficiencies, arthritic conditions, bone density, all forms of hormone imbalance, digestive issues, and all forms of cancer, especially hormone-derived or hormone-influenced cancers. The most common sign of estrogen elevation is slight to frequent weight gain and obesity. Okay, so that's a pretty basic kind of introduction, but I want to actually move. I want to give you guys a little bit more of this subject right now, because this is so perfectly laid out right here. I can't help myself, so enjoy. The hormonal symphony of the body operates in specific cycles where certain hormones must predominate, otherwise estrogen-related signalers will inadvertently dominate. Hormones are chemical signaling agents in the body. They signal off chemical instructions for metabolic function based on our environment, our diet, specific exercise routines, which we just talked about, and levels of stress. We're going to talk about that a little later. When our hormone cascade is firing in the correct sequence, we influence longevity characteristics such as lean muscle mass, sharpened intellect, and immunological strength. If the proper sequencing is out of order or specific hormones are suppressed, we turn on aging characteristics such as weight gain and weakened immunity. For example, in men, this right here, for all you men listening, tune into this right now. In men, the predominant androgen is always testosterone. It has falsely become common thought that men naturally lose their testosterone as they age. Otherwise, they are in risk of prostate complications. This is good. This is the good one. It turns out to be exactly the opposite. Statistics show that as men reach ages associated with lowered testosterone, they also increase their chances for benign prostate enlargement. Whoa, okay, so we've all been told that if you have higher testosterone as a man when you go up in the aging cycle, the statistics for increasing prostate cancer or benign prostate enlargement increase. But there's something that's not being told to us about that. We're going to jump into that. Testosterone has been shown to be anti-metastatic. What does that mean? A metastasis or a metastatic growth, essentially, is basically where a tumor or a cancer cell spread out the body. So a cancer could start in your colon, it could start in your lungs, it could start in your kidneys, it could start in your brain. Typically, it spreads to the brain, but it metastasizes. We call that like stage 3 or stage 4 cancer. It metastasizes through the system. It systemically evolves throughout the body, and then one cancer is right here in the body, and then it shows up in another part of the body. So when people do, they cut, when the physicians surgically remove a tumor, the old idea was like, okay, great, we've removed the tumor, you're clear. And then a year later, it shows up in a different part of the body. It's because they haven't removed the root cause. They haven't changed the environmental medium of the body, basically a highly acidic and carcinogenic and pathogen-filled virus, yeast, mold, fungus, bacteria, parasites, all that kind of thing. They haven't removed the cause, so all those organisms are still having a party in the body, and they're creating more cancerous forming carcinogenic conditions, and it just spreads from one area to the other area. So testosterone has been shown to be anti-metastatic. Okay, let's continue. It does not, so anti-metastatic, it does not proliferate cancer in any form. Here's where the confusion on prostate and testosterone, that whole complication is. Here's the kicker for you. DHT, dihydrotestosterone, is a metabolite of testosterone, often associated as testosterone in testing for full testosterone levels in men. It has been established that DHT plays a significant role in exacerbating prostate cancer by enlarging the prostate gland. Okay. DHT, unlike free testosterone, cannot be converted into estrogen. This means that if estrogen dominance has taken hold in a man, their DHT will outcompete their free testosterone, making them a candidate for excessive weight gain, prostate enlargement, male pattern baldness, and decreased sexual function. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That basically is a simplified version of what's actually happening in a man's body when these tests that you get to test your testosterone, what they don't test for often in conventional settings is free testosterone. That's what you want. But they're testing DHT and free testosterone as one thing. So when it shows, oh, you have an elevated testosterone, and you also have prostate enlargement, what's actually happening is they have an overproduction, or they have basically DHT in the testosterone cockpit, and the testosterone, the free testosterone, has converted over into a steroidal form of estrogen called estradiol. And this right here, guys, is the big thing. This is the thing, if I didn't get through certain things in this presentation, this is the main thing that I've really locked onto in the hormone picture, is what's called aromatization. Aromatization is what is basically when our good hormones, our youthening juvenile hormones, get converted biologically into inappropriate forms of estrogen, which is basically estradiol. There's also a chemical metabolite called 16-alpha hydroxyestrone is the actual name for it. And when reason you should know that is that if you do get testing, you want to get a full panel hormone test. You don't just get like testosterone and progesterone and estrogen, and you want to get like thyroid, you want to get DHEA, you want to get vitamin D. You need to get all those things tested as a ratioed out hormone panel so you can get a full picture of what's going on. Anyways, so the aromatization is where these hormones get flipped over, specifically progesterone in a woman's body, testosterone in a man's body, and it gets turned into steroidal forms of estrogen called estradiol, and that is behind the proliferation of sex gland, like breast, secondary sex hormones like breast cancer, ovarian cysts, fibroids, tumors, thinking of basically the major hormone related cancers out there. The hormonally driven cancers are basically because of this aromatization. Now let me point something out for you guys. I'm going to read another part in this book. Hopefully you guys are enjoying me actually reading these passages, because it's so much easier, and I think you guys are getting a little more in-depth value from me doing that. But aromatization is because there's an enzyme in the body called aromatase, which basically gets stored in the liver and mostly gets stored in our fat cells of our body. And the more fat cells that we have in the body, the more aromatase gets stored in those fat cells and creates more fat cells to buffer itself from all the chemical saturation in the body. So this is a really important idea I just want to share, is that the reason why people are putting on so much excess weight at such an alarming rate in our world is because there's so much compounded toxicity in the body, xenobiotic toxicity and all the whole like, is that our fat cells act as protective buffers from the toxicity once our liver is no longer able to manufacture the toxins into a less toxic form to eliminate it out of the body. So basically what happens is that your liver gets congested and it loses what's called methyl groups. So there's another part of this that I would love for all of you to research further called methylation. And this is the thing, is that if you lose your methyl groups or your methyl pathways are clogged up and blocked up, you can't actually clean out the liver. And then you're going to end up with these excessive weight gain situations or these aromatase saturation conditions, and you're going to start converting all your good hormones over into bad hormones, bad estradiol. Now, why is that so important? Well, there's a little thing called synthetic hormone replacement therapy. And I know some of you listening have probably been wanting me to get to this point on whether hormone replacement therapy is good, it's bad, what are the risks, what do I need to know about it? This is what you need to know about, is that if you're doing end product hormones, meaning exogenous hormones that come from outside of the body that need to be injected into the body, you're going to most likely increase that conversion process of what could be a good hormone into a negative hormone. And we've seen this with bodybuilders. This is what's going on in the bodybuilding industry. And this is why the bodybuilding industry got really smart and they started to apply what's called aromatase inhibitors or estrogen blocking supplements or herbs or foods that actually block the conversion of good hormones into bad hormones and help the good hormones like testosterone or progesterone stay in their cockpit, stay in the place where they need to be. And we're going to get into what the most powerful aromatase inhibiting or estrogen blocking foods, supplements, and herbs are in just a moment. But this is what the bodybuilding industry figured out, because you can see some of the greatest bodybuilders that definitely were taking steroids and they became huge, right? Their musculature is just like, it's like the Hulk, whatever. They're super powerful muscularly. But then once they reach about 45, 50, 60, what happens? All that muscle definition converts into fat and they fatten up. It's like, whoa, what happened to that person? Well, it's basically because they lost all their methyl groups, their liver got super congested, their kidneys got super congested with animal protein. They can't metabolize protein anymore efficiently. They lost all their digestive enzymes, and they quite literally are converting all that testosterone, all that exogenous testosterone into estradiol, and that's what's creating the problem. So that's really just an important thing to know about. Now, I want to finish that point off on saying this. When it comes to hormone replacement therapy, this isn't just my opinion, by the way. I'm not just trying to rant and rave about something I think about. This is proven that synthetic hormone replacement therapy is absolutely no-go. It's completely risky. It's basically hormones that are being manufactured in a laboratory through synthetic chemicals, or they're being produced from a female pregnant horse to produce basically estrogen. Now, I don't know about any of you guys, but I'm not really into that. Like, I don't really want the byproduct of a horse's urine in me. That's kind of a weird idea. And that's where we've gone as a human civilization, is where we've gone so far off the deep end. We've literally gotten so smart, we've gotten totally stupid. That's basically what's happening. So we have to take a journey back into what's natural, normal, and actually makes sense, which is bioidentical hormones, essentially. This is where hormone therapy actually makes sense, is that bioidentical hormones are derived from food, typically from organic soy or yams. I'm not a big fan of bioidentical estrogen, but I do recommend that each person, because you're all unique in a certain situation, you consult with a functional nutritionist or a naturopathic doctor that has a very comprehensive understanding of hormones. Not everyone out there does. So they need to have a comprehensive understanding of the hormone situation that we're talking about. And you talk to them, get your hormones tested in their full panel ratios so you have a clear understanding of what's going on. But we're going to take it a step further than that, and we're going to go into all the foods and herbs that you can use to immediately bring a balanced physiology and biology to your body. Now, let's jump into that really quick here. Now, I'm not going to give you all the ins and outs and the data on all these foods. I've done all that. This book, by the way, has it all laid out in detail. Go to Amazon.com, the Inner Alchemy Youth Thinning Program. I think it's like $25. It absolutely is an invaluable resource on the subject. Now here, I'm just going to categorize it for you and leave it up to your own common sense and your own research to investigate further. Here are the best estrogen removing and estrogen blocking foods in the raw food world. Colorful organic berries of all kinds, especially berries, especially raspberries, blackberries, goji berries actually are very powerful in this situation. Cherries are botanically berries. Grapes, tomatoes are botanically berries too. Grapes with their seeds intact are powerful in this situation. So having a lot of organic, wild if possible berries that you can just put into your smoothie and just whip that up into a superfood estrogen blocking, estrogen removing superfood elixir. What a powerful idea. Figs, when figs are in season, we just came off, or we're coming off like our fig season right now, but figs, you can even take dried figs and soak them back up, or getting the best like juicy figs you can is really powerful, especially for the testicles, the gonadal system of your adrenal HPA axis system, and for the ovaries as well. Plus, figs are, according to Arnold Eckhart in his book Mucusless Diet and Rational Fasting, figs are the most mucus dissolving foods out there. So that's really powerful as well. And then olives in the highest quality olive oil, cold pressed extra virgin olive oil. I've heard so much malarkey and stuff on olive oil and from the low-fat vegan militia, and people saying, you need to be on a low-fat diet and a high-carb diet. Well, guess what? How are your hormones being manufactured? This is what I'm talking about when people don't really have a full idea of what hormones really are and how they're being produced in the body is when we get into these extreme points of view. A low-fat diet is great for cleansing. It's great for cleansing out all the overt synthetic hormones and just kind of getting the body back into balance and resetting the body. But you need to have enough fat in your body to manufacture cholesterol. And cholesterol is the silly putty that forms your juvenile androgenic hormones. And olive oil has a compound called oleoreucine, which is basically a compound that's very, very highly effective for blocking off estrogen conversion and has been associated with all the major centarians in all the blue zones of the world. The blue zones of the world are basically the areas that have been identified in the world that have the longest living centarians. Centarians are people that have lived 100 years or beyond. Olive oil is always in that conversation. So there must be a reason for it, right? Okay, and then beyond that, cruciferous vegetables. This continues to come up all the time. Is cruciferous vegetables, specifically cauliflower, broccoli, kale, kohlrabi, Brussels sprouts, that kind of thing. What you want to do with these, for most people can't process cruciferous vegetables in their raw state. Some people can. I can. I'm good with it. Broccoli is a little harder, but cauliflower, No problem. But ideally, I recommend people actually steam these most of the time and add them as a side benefit to their diet. What's going on with cruciferous vegetables is they help us, or they have a nutrient called indole-3 carbinol and DIM, diindole methane, which you've probably heard about in supplemental form, which is a powerful supplement, but it's only really, well, we'll get into that later. I don't want to rant about that too much, but that's really powerful for methylation, increasing your methyl pathways and your detoxification portals of your body and clearing up the liver of congestion. The next thing is sea vegetation. Sea vegetables, specifically kelp. And the reason I say kelp is because it's the highest source of natural iodine in the food world. And we've already talked about iodine, how powerful iodine is, but to get it from a food source is preferential if you can derive all the iodine you need in that food source. It's definitely the best source of iodine, so I recommend kelp in your diet. I recommend lemons and limes. Lemons and limes, I mean, I could do a whole thing on just lemons in general. The citric acid is breaking down calcification deposits in the body, and increasing digestion, hydrochloric acid. But what's going on with lemons is that, in all citrus fruit, but lemons and limes, is they contain a compound called narogenin, which is a proven estrogen or aromatase inhibiting molecule that is specific to lemons and limes. I think it's also in like grapefruit, other citrus fruits as well, but it's most pronounced in lemons and limes. So definitely adding in juiced lemon and lime into your green vegetable juice is highly advised in this situation. The next thing is flax seeds and chia seeds. What you want to do with flax seeds specifically, you want to get ground flax seeds and put about 2 tablespoons in your smoothie, right? And the reason for flax seeds is they contain a fiber called lignin that actually binds onto these estrogen metabolites, not just the synthetic estrogens, but the estrogens that are being produced through hormone metabolism that leave end products in the body if they're not eliminated properly. And that's where fiber comes into the picture. Fiber is a drawing agent for these metabolites that need to be escorted out of the body. They need to be drawn out of the body. So flax seeds and soaked chia seeds for the insoluble and soluble fiber is very important for that. The next thing are beets, beetroots, and goji berries. Those are the highest source in a nutrient called trimethylglycine, or TMG, which is that whole methylation pathway. That's what it's all about. It's increasing methylation. It's donating methyl groups, trimethylglycine, and that's just a powerful compound. And whenever you see the word methyl, like methylcobalamin, which is vitamin B12, methyl sulfonyl methane, which is MSM, you can be assured that it's going to have an effect on your methylation process, and it's going to be specifically effective for the liver. MSM, again, is another powerful thing to add into your morning water, your morning schizandra berry juice, your morning juice in general, whatever your deal is. Then I'm just going to say these 2 things and move on. We have maca, which is a very powerful hormone regulating herb/food that comes from the Andes Mountains. It comes from Peru. Has an incredible amount of track record, literally hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years in the Peruvian culture as a fertility aid, as a libido aid, and just for balancing hormones and increasing endurance and vigorous health. And then there's coconut products. If you're on a vegan diet, you need to be getting your saturated fat from coconut meat and coconut oil. No question about it. Coconuts are powerful hormonal foods. The whole coconut, the water, the meat, and the pressed oil is very, very powerful. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick breather on this. This is a lot of information. We've gone over a lot so far. I'm going to take a breather, and then I'm going to give you guys the 3 herbs that I recommend before we round out this whole conversation. Okay. I'm just checking in who's with us right now. Okay, we got a lot of people here. You guys love this topic. I'm telling that out of all the topics I could talk about brain health. I could talk about how to manifest your dreams and desires with nutrition. I mean, that's a whole nother thing to talk about. I could talk about everything under the sun, but when it comes to hormones, I think there's an intuitive thing there with people where they realize like, hey, look, my hormones are whacked out of balance. I need to figure out how to balance the ratios. I need to get this thing under control. And you'll notice this too, by the way, if you're a man or a woman. An interesting observation I've had over the years is that when men start to decline in hormones, in their testosterone and HGH, they kind of go out slowly. Not all the time, but they kind of go out slowly. There's a docility, right? The domestication of the masculine in our world is basically hormonally driven. We have all this programming and everything about all these other things. It's mostly hormonally driven if you really look at it from a primal perspective. And men kind of just like, they get locked into their job. They get kind of like into the routine and rhythms, and they just kind of go out slowly. But women, once their hormones start to dip, they are like on it. They are not settling into the sun. They are going at it. They're making noise. They are making a ruckus. They are not going out quietly. And that's why most of the people that follow me and most of the clients I have and most of the students in my Holistic Health Mastery course happen to be women, like 35 to 55 years old. They happen to be women. By the way, I think this is a great time for me to introduce something. Here it is. I'm pulling it up for you guys. Oh, whoops. Hold on. Boom. Okay, so this right here is my Holistic Health Mastery course. This is the master's class in holistic nutrition worldwide on the internet. And what I'm doing right now for everyone is I have a special 50% off your complete tuition, which gives you a lifetime membership to the Holistic Health Mastery program, which is the most comprehensive and in-depth and, in my personal opinion, well-organized holistic nutrition program or course on the internet. And you guys can click the link there to get full details. We're offering a 50% discount on the whole tuition, which is a huge offer. And the offer is basically good from today until August 31st. The reason we're doing that is because we have 94 active students in the course. And over the last couple months, it's grown substantially. And I want to get to that 100 milestone, that 100 member milestone quickly. And I want to go past it and beyond. I want to include as many people that are just like on it, that are activated, the cream of the crop students in this whole community. I want them to be a part of this and to get the benefits of everything this program offers. So we're offering that to you at a 50% discount. Click on the link that's provided to you in the pop-up right there. Get all the details and make a decision if this is for you or not. And take action on it. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask me, private message me or email me or anything like that. I'd be happy to discuss that with you. Okay, so back to the topic at hand. The last thing I want to go through for you guys is the top 3 herbs that I found that are really effective for hormonal synchronization, whether it's producing the right hormones or it's helping to keep everything in its appropriate balance. And you're probably going to be surprised about some of these options. The first one is called pine pollen. Some of you are well aware of pine pollen. And basically, pine pollen is the sperm, essentially, of the pine tree, of the pine plant. And it's the pollen of the pine tree. And it basically contains bioavailable testosterone. And testosterone is important for both men and women, by the way. Women need enough testosterone, and men, for obvious reasons. And this is something I've seen just be really powerful for people when they feel like they're off balance. By the way, when you are off balance, it's indicative in our world that there's an easy assumption that there is an estrogen inflation issue. It's no doubt about it in my experience, my observation, and just doing all the research on this subject, looking at it worldwide as a worldwide epidemic because of all the plastic exposure in our world. Pine pollen is absolutely powerful for regenerating the youthful hormones and getting that like vigor and vitality back, and actually motivating someone to get on like a really powerful fitness routine. It gives you that primordial energy back in your body. So that's number one. Number two is passion flower. Passion flower. I have a passion for passion flower, actually. It's just something that came across my radar when I was living on the big island of Hawaii, and passion flower vines were growing vivaciously throughout the island. And this is also the lilikoi plant, the lilikoi fruit. So basically, when the passion flower flowers, it produces a flower that either you can take the flower and create like an infusion, or you can create a decoction, or you can create a tincture, which is an alcohol-soluble delivery for the compounds in passion flower that are aromatase inhibiting. Or you can take the fruit and take that, and that has incredible benefits. It has what's called nervines in it, actually, that are nervous system either sedatives or relaxants that balance the parasympathetic and sympathetic load of our nervous system, which is absolutely critical and powerful. But I want to talk about the passion flower tincture, because inside the tincture is the alcohol-soluble fraction of the passion flower plant, which is something called chrysin. Now, this is something you can look up. It's chrysin, CHRYSIN. And actually, just because it's on my mind, I'm going to pull up in my book. I have a little write-up on passion flower and chrysin. So I just want to share that with you guys real quick. Where are you at? Chamomile's another one, by the way. But here you go. Here's my paragraph on passion flower for you guys in the book. Flowers are pure works of art generated from nature's rich canvas. My personal favorite is passion flower, also known as apricot vine and blue passion flower. This is one of the most unique plants ever discovered, both by appearance and by nutritive properties. This flower contains an extensive chemical diversity chemical diversity, subtle affecting various physiological functions. The most remarked aspect of passion flower is in its estrogen blocking capabilities. It contains a phytochemical called chrysin, which is sold as an isolated supplement for bodybuilders and the pharmaceutical industry. Research coming out of Europe indicates that supplementing with chrysin can potentially improve blood testosterone levels up to 30%. This active ingredient in passion flower is an aromatase inhibitor that is suggested to additionally lower cortisol levels. Real quick aside on that, why it's so important that you modulate and channel your stress response, which is cortisol production, is because it's been shown that cortisol in a woman's body, cortisol competes for the same hormone pathway as progesterone. So quite literally, when we're in a hypersympathetic, stressed out, fight or flight state, your youth hormone in a man, testosterone, in a woman, progesterone, it gets pushed out of the cycle. It gets pushed out of the pathway. And so your progesterone, even if you're taking progesterone, yam-based progesterone bioidentical cream, it may not be getting to the pathway because the cortisol is pushing it out. It's actually forcing progesterone out of the pathway. So that's why you've got to modulate your stress. In my personal opinion, is you've got to do what you love to do in life. I mean, how do you regulate stress? Well, you start doing what you love to do. You get on with what your passion is in life, and you stop entertaining the modern day slavery of doing obligatory things that you don't want to do. You get in line with what you love to do, And that's the best way. Okay, anyways. It is not suggested here to supplement with isolated chrysin, as metabolic problems have been reported from overuse. Take whole leaf passion flower as a strong tea and supplement with the alcohol tincture for added potency. So there you go. That's a little breakdown on passion flower, and specifically the tincture form of passion flower. You can do that in your water. It's really strong, like Herb Farm. The company Herb Farm has a great passion flower product. Do it in your water. Do it in your lemon water. Put some schizandra berries. And you can find schizandra at a website called lifefoodherbs.com. And they have amazing schizandra and other Chinese herbs. And then the third herb I want to mention here is reishi mushroom, Ganoderma lucidum. Reishi mushroom is not an aromatase inhibitor. It's not even really like a testosterone producing herb or anything like that. What it does is it helps modulate your all the functions of your nervous system. So your parasympathetic, sympathetic, and autonomic nervous system, which helps regulate that cortisol that we're talking about. It helps regulate and modulate the fight or flight response. This is why I think reishi mushroom is the most important herb in the world right now, is because I have seen miracles unfold for people, especially in Los Angeles, where people take strong reishi extracts and it changes them. It changes their thought process. It changes their emotional expression. It calms them down. And that to me is so absolutely critical. Not to mention that reishi has really powerful effects on liver metabolism, on cleaning out the liver, cleaning out the blood through what's called ganodermic acid that's present in reishi mushroom and reishi mushroom dual extraction powders, is that it helps break down some of that arterial plaquing that forms in our arteries and our capillaries, and many other things. So those are the three herbs that I immediately recommend that you guys just kind of act on, get in tune with. You can also find great reishi extracts on lifefoodherbs.com. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick breather here. I have a question that I want to address, and I want to open it up for all of you guys. If you do have any questions, now is the time to type them into the chat box. Where are we at on time here? I think we're rounding out our time on this webinar. I know that we talked about a lot of information, so I just want you guys to take it in. Definitely watch the replay of this. It should be sent to your email at the moment that we stop this broadcast. It's also going to be available on my YouTube channel about 10 minutes after we stop this broadcast. So keep watching it, keep tuning in, take notes, take action on the notes. So I have a question here from Gail. What about if you are in menopause? I'm assuming, okay, estrogen is usually low then. Yeah, so it depends on the type of estrogen as well. This is why I recommend, instead of giving just like blatant advice on this, like should you take estrogen-based bioidenticals or not, that's a choice that you have to make, and you should make it with a functional nutritionist or a naturopathic doctor that can test for the full panel of your hormones, because you need to know which estrogens are in what place, right? That lowered estrogen could be the type of testing they're taking, right? Or you just naturally, I had a woman once that had her ovaries removed. I mean, geez, that's where your progesterone, your estrogen are being produced, right? As a woman, it's from your ovary glands. So in that case, that's a situation where it's like, okay, I mean, if you're not able to produce the hormones, then you need to look at bioidentical safe hormone therapy in that situation, of course. And in a case of menopause, to do those bioidenticals, it can be very effective in the short term. What I personally recommend, because I feel like we're at a place where I can give that kind of general advice, is taking yam-based progesterone cream. And you don't do it every single day, by the way. You do it like 14 days in a row out of the month, and then take like a week off, or or work again with a functional physician or naturopathic doctor or nutritionist that can actually guide you in the process. Because it's hard for me to just say like, okay, you just do this, because that's not appropriate, right? That's not really what's going on. You're a unique case, as is everybody. So to have someone that can help guide you along is really important. So I want to leave that question in that kind of realm of probability, but I definitely feel like everything that we've talked about from all the food perspective, because I'm always about going to food first, dialing in your diet in a way that helps balance out the hormone ratios and helps with the aromatization is going to be really important. So looking at that, constructing your diet in a way that's going to stack the odds in your favor. It's all about probabilities. There's never any definitive answer. It's all about just probability field of where you're trying to go. So hopefully that helps you in your direction. The next question is from Kaleo. Aloha, Ronnie. What do you consider a therapeutic dose of reishi? Oh man, this is hilarious to me. Okay, I got to tell a quick story here. Years ago, when I worked at the Air One tonic bar in Los Angeles, I worked there for 6 months, and there was one night where I overdosed on reishi, this really powerful reishi extract from a company called Mushroom Science, and we had just gotten the reishi in, right? And so we were all excited and we're kind of playing with it. And I had the bright idea. I was like, well, I wonder what's gonna happen if I just like double my dosage. So I took 2 capsules in my tea, and I felt this lift, this very Shen experience. I was like, whoa, I feel amazing. So I was like, okay, what happens if I take 21 capsules? And basically the experience I had was that I was just high as a kite. I was totally shened out. I was totally like in such a state of bliss and amusement where I couldn't even work functionally. All my like left brain faculties got shut down. And, I just couldn't even talk to customers. I had one woman come up to me and she's like, oh, what do I do about water? Should I do this? Blah, 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 blah. It was all this intellectual stuff. And I was like, look, lady, I was like kind of like in that high as a kite place. I was like, lady, look, get off plastic bottled water and just whatever, go from there. It's literally that I couldn't even function, but I had this state of just total like, what's the word? Like pure entertainment and laughter and bliss, to the point where they actually had to send me home because I was totally not functional at all. I couldn't do anything other than just kind of laugh at customers and that kind of thing. So I definitely feel like there's no LD50 of reishi. That's the thing with these tonic herbs, is there's no lethal dose of tonic herbs. So you can theoretically do as much as you want, and it depends on the product. But I recommend if you get a powder, you do like half a tablespoon in your tonic to start, and then you feel it out from there. You kind of get a feeling of intuitively what feels good as you progress forward. Okay, and then I have a question from Chrissy. If a person had their thyroid removed, what can they do to balance their energy levels? Wow. Okay. The primary thing that comes to my mind is that they have to probably get on desiccated thyroid glandular. That's a whole nother thing that is its own lecture, and that's totally not vegan at all. It's a desiccated thyroid of a pig essentially. And they're probably going to have to do, in fact, I'm pretty sure that's what they have to do based on my research and based on what I've learned from other hormone specialists, is that's basically what has to happen. When you have a piece of your thyroid removed, or you have the thing removed entirely, that's a hard one, because it's against like having your ovaries removed or something being castrated. I mean, you don't have the primary mechanism that allows you to produce those hormones. So that's a long, in-depth thing, but definitely they're probably going to have to do the pig glandular for sure, or at least look into it. I mean, this again, working with someone that is a functional specialist in this area is absolutely critical. I definitely recommend coconut oil. I definitely recommend This, this is a tough one. I'm intuitively allowing something to come to me, opposed than intellectually trying to answer the question, because it's one of those gray zones that, it's like, it's a hard one to be definitive about. Maybe that's the most appropriate way for me to answer that question, really, is that person needs to definitely look into outside of the box solutions. And again, I really think working with someone that's a specialist in this area is going to be the most philosophical and appropriate thing that I can personally advise in that situation. But I can say this: everything that I recommended from the food perspective, from the herb perspective, and also from the hormone perspective or from the supplement perspective, in terms of getting onto I3C, indole 3-carbinol, with DIM together, is absolutely powerful. So there's a product called Estrogard, which is basically I3C, DIM, and I think there's something else in that mix as well. I definitely think that they need to clean out their liver, and they need to have a focus on cleaning out their liver. And then I think what I can also advise in this situation is getting grounded, getting barefoot on the earth, getting into an ocean, getting their hands in the soil, or getting grounding material in their house, making sure that person is not on a dirty capacitor, otherwise known as a metal coiled mattress. Because those metal coiled mattresses concentrate positively charged electricity onto themselves, and they disrupt our electrical system, and that's going to affect this thing one way or another. So I mean, stacking the odds in our favor at all times, and doing the salt water in the morning, again, is absolutely critical, in my personal opinion, in my experience. Whoa, okay. I think I have the bandwidth to cater to one more question if somebody has it. But again, I want to recommend that all of you, if you have not looked at the Holistic Health Mastery Program, the 50% off offer that I'm offering right now, do that. Because here's the thing I didn't mention before about that too, is that not only is it a 70 video curriculum series that you're going to learn from, which is the basic curriculum that leads into the Holistic Nutrition Certification program, or the certification quiz, but then there's 4 bonus series that are 10 videos each, and one of them is hormone mastery. And there's nothing that I'm aware of that goes into more depth and breaks down all the moving parts in the hormone conversation than that one course. I mean, that one bonus course is worth the price of admission in of itself, and you get a lifetime access to this. I mean, geez, like, the value to me is astronomical. It's obnoxious, actually, on how much value you're going to get from this. Not to mention, you automatically get put into a community of, right now, 94 people that are super inspired superheroes in their own right, and leaders in the health movement that you can communicate with, ask questions, build familial bonds with through the course. We have a community site where you can actually interact and communicate with people, and actually ask questions. And that's where I personally I'm accessible that way, where I can actually answer questions through that community site. And many other bonuses as well. I'm going to stop talking about it, because you need to click on that link and check out the information. That's why I created the website. It's for you to investigate further. Okay, I guess that's it. Thank you so much. Much aloha to all of you. Mahalo. That's thank you and aloha, by the way, if you're not familiar. And I'm going to be moving to Kauai next week, next Friday. I'm super grateful about that. And I'm going to be filming constant videos. I'm going to be relaunching my podcast series and be doing more webinars and all that kind of thing, and at more of an intense pace, and just provide more and more education for all of you. And yeah, so looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to interacting with all of you. Again, get the replay, share it with everyone you know. This information is so invaluable, and that's why I'm even here making the time for you guys to present this to you so you can share it with everyone you know. So mahalo nui loa, that means thank you very much, deeply from my heart, and much aloha, and I'll see you guys next time.